Hi, welcome to our weekly Parsha class from Machon Alte in Tzfas. This week's Parsha is Parshas Truma. We find that in the first few psukim in the Parsha, when Hashem came and commanded Moshe to come and command the Jewish people to bring a donation for the building of the Mishkan, the pasuk states as follows: Vayidaber Hashem el Moshe leimer. Hashem came and said to Moshe as follows: Daber al bnei Yisrael, come and speak to the Jewish people, vayikchu li truma, and take for me, for Hashem, a truma, a portion. Then the second pasuk goes on and says, Me'eis kol ish asher yidvenu libay, tichu es trumasi. Anybody who wants to donate, come and take from him my truma. And on the third pasuk it says, V'zois ha-truma asher tikchu mi'itam, and this donation you should take from them, Zahav, Kesef, Unacheshes, gold, silver, and copper. And the pasuk goes on and specifies the different things which were needed for the actual building of the structure of the Mishkan. Our sages come and teach us that the fact that the pasuk uses the three times the word Truma, it refers to the three donations, the three purposes where the donations were used for. One donation was used for buying and building the sockets where the actual structure of the Mishkan was based on. The second donation, the second time it says Truma, refers to the second donation, the donation which was used for buying sacrifices for the Mishkan. And the third time it says Truma, it refers to the third donation, which is the actual building of the structure of the Mishkan. I'm sure you followed closely and noticed that when the pasuk refers to the first donation, the pasuk uses the word vayikchu li truma, take for me, for Hashem, a truma. The second time it says the word truma, it says tikchu es trumasi, take the truma for me, but here it says my truma, here it says in one word, trumasi. And the third time it says Truma, just says the word Truma, doesn't say for who. Another thing, we find that when it refers to the third donation, the pasuk specifies exactly what was the donation for, what was needed to be donated. The 15 different things which we needed for the actual building of the structure of the Mishkan. But when we refer to the first two donations, when we look in the pasuk, it doesn't say anything about what the donation was for and what was the amount which was needed for. How do we donate those things? Why is it that the pasuk doesn't tell us anything about that? The RABB explains a very interesting thing and says as follows: we know that our world, stands on three spiritual pillars. The first pillar is the pillar of Torah. The second pillar is the pillar of Avodah. And the third pillar is the pillar of Gemilas Chasadim. And these three pillars are similar to these three types of donations. Because we know that the purpose of the Mishkan was in order to make a dwelling place for God. In order to make a dwelling place for God down here. And how do we make a dwelling place for God down here? By strengthening these three pillars. The pillar of Torah, of learning Torah, the pillar of Avodah. Avodah is the sacrifice. In the time of Beis HaMikdash, of the Mishkan, was the sacrifices. And once the Beis HaMikdash was destroyed, then we have the davening. When we daven every day, that is instead of the sacrifices. And the third pillar is the pillar of Gemilas Chasadim. Gemilas Chasadim refers to doing mitzvahs and dealing with the physical aspect of the world. When it comes to the pillar of Torah, Chassidus comes and explains that the beauty of Torah is that Hashem says, Anoichi Hashem Alekecha. And our sages teach us that the word Anoichi is Ana Nafshi Ksavis Yehavis, which means I myself, God Himself, put Himself in the Torah. So Torah is something so special that God Himself put Himself in the Torah, and when a person comes and learns Torah, it's explained in Tanya chapter 5, that when a person learns Torah, he unites with God himself. When he learns Torah, being that God put himself in Torah, and when he understands that, he's actually one with God. But being that a person is a physical person, so his unity with God, it's just in his intellect level. It didn't penetrate through his personality. Then we have the pillar of avodah. The idea of bringing sacrifices on the mizbeach, and later on the idea of davening, Chassidus comes and explains, it's not just taking the animal and burning it on the mizbeach, but the idea is actually to come and take the physical aspect of the world, or the physical aspect of oneself, and to come and elevate it, to come and bring it closer to Hashem, to come and unite with Hashem. And the difference between the two, between Torah and between avodah, the idea of karbanis, the idea of davening, is that when a person learns Torah, God himself comes down to him. The kedusha, the holiness of the Torah comes down to this world. But a person still stays in his physical state. He's not elevated enough yet. When it comes to the purpose of karbanis, of avodah, we have when a person down here works on elevating himself and refining himself, and to finally be able to come and reach upon God. So one is from above to below. Torah is from above to below, and avodah is below to above. And finally, the third pillar, which is gmilas chasadim, is something which is not related to the person, to the relationship of a Jew to God, but actually it refers to the relationship with Hashem and the world. The idea of gemilas chasadim is the idea of mitzvahs. The whole idea of mitzvahs is that we take physical objects which don't have any holiness in it, and we come and use it for the purpose of God. And that's how we come and elevate those physical objects, and by elevating all the physicality of the world, that's how we accomplish the main purpose, the purpose of making a dwelling place for God. And once we understand the inner meaning of those three pillars, once we understand the inner meaning of what is accomplished by each one, by the pillar of Torah, by the pillar of avodah, and by the pillar of gmilas chasadim, now finally we could come and understand what that the pasuk says. When it comes to the pillar of Torah, the pasuk says li truma, take for me a portion. But here the words are two separate words, li, for me, a truma. Because when it comes to Torah, there is Hashem, and then there is and then there is the person. Hashem and the person are two separate entities still. Even once a person learns Torah, he's not totally elevated and totally refined yet. There are still two separate beings. But when it comes to the pillar of avodah, when it comes to the pillar of davening, of sacrifices, there it says what? Trumasi. Here it's one. Here it's one word, because here it comes to bring out the unity that is accomplished when a person comes and elevates himself and refines himself through davening. And once it comes to the gmilas chasadim, once it comes to do mitzvahs, once we come to dealing with the physical aspect of the world and trying to elevate that, there it just says truma. It doesn't say anything to who the truma is. It doesn't say anything about Hashem over there. Why is that? Because when we deal with mitzvahs, when we deal with the physical aspect of the world, we don't see it in the time of Golus. We don't see the outcome of what we do. We don't see godliness in the world. The world is still coarse. The world is still physical. We don't see godliness there, and therefore the pasuk just says truma. It doesn't bring out the relation of Hashem in that. And once we understand that, we could also understand why is it that when it comes to the third truma, the pasuk specifies exactly what the truma is, what the truma should be for. But when it comes to the first two trumas, it doesn't say anything. We learn from the fact that it says 3 times, we learn that it refers to 3 types of donations, but it doesn't say the amount, it doesn't say what it's for. Why is that? And the answer is, because when a person comes and learns Torah, he comes and his intellect is one with Hashem. When a person comes and davens, he elevates himself to Hashem. But here, it's all about a person's relationship with Hashem. The unity that a person is trying to accomplish, him and Hashem. But we all know that the purpose of the creation of the world wasn't for the benefit of the person, but rather was to come and elevate this world, to come and take this world and make a dwelling place for God. That's the whole purpose. And where is that purpose accomplished? Not necessarily when a person only devotes himself to Torah. Not necessarily when a person only devotes himself to Avodah, but when he takes Torah and he takes the Avodah, he takes the learning Torah, he takes the davening, he takes that inspiration, and he comes and conquers the world. He uses the physical aspect of the world, and he refines it, he elevates it, and that's how he makes a dwelling place for God. And this is the explanation in the three types of donations that were required for the building of the Mishkan, for making a dwelling place for God. And may we merit that when we, with all our deeds, with all our learning Torah, and all our davening, and all our mitzvahs, will we merit the coming of Mashiach very, very soon. Good Shabbos.